Hi everybody. I decided just to give my thoughts on the potential trade between ONE FC and the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And when I say trade, I don't mean like the traditional baseball, basketball, football trade where it's athlete A, I am sending you to this city so that I can get athlete B, right? It's not that kind of trade. From my understanding, from my sources of Ariel Helwani and Luke Thomas, Ariel Helwani, who works for UFC, well, who works for ESPN, sorry, and Luke, who is a radio personality for SiriusXM channel Fight Nation, one of my personal favorite stations to listen to for my news, and also MMA Junkie. So I have, you know, quite a few sources, and I heard of this basically as soon as I turned the computer on after coming home from work. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, former flyweight champion, and the fighter who has the record for the most successful defenses, is going to ONE. And in exchange, undefeated welterweight, former Bellator and former ONE FC welterweight champion Ben Askren is expected to sign with the UFC. This is pretty big news within the world of MMA. This is, to the hardcore fan, this is pretty big. From my understanding of what Luke Thomas is saying, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is really not interested in a rematch with Cejudo. I really thought that UFC would be trying to throw that trilogy money at him. I guess not. Trilogy match with Cejudo, because he beat Cejudo by TKO in the first round, and Cejudo beat him by split decision. So I thought that there could be a market for a rubber match, but I suppose not. And so anyone else is not interested in that, and he wants to go to ONE because in an interview or an article, which I'm not able to find at this time, I guess I could Google it, and in that case I guess you guys could Google it too, that he was interested in going to ONE FC after his current contract, and then also discussed wanting to go to Bellator to win, see if they have a flyweight championship there, and then at that point he could be arguably, if he's not already, the greatest male flyweight fighter in history, if he's not already considered one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in the world. I think that he already is, but perhaps he needs to prove this more to himself. So by winning another major, I guess it would be, major world title, well, it wouldn't be a regional title. It's a world title. Win another world title to cement his legacy. And for ONE FC, this is a big acquisition, if the deal goes through. This is all assuming that the deal goes through. If the deal goes through, this is a huge gain for ONE, especially after the fact that they signed Eddie Alvarez, former Bellator and UFC lightweight champion. The signing of Eddie Alvarez now in conjunction with the potential signing of Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, they're in the way, or on their way rather, to make some money. Because ONE FC also doesn't have, as far as I know, they don't have the restricting the current promotion, advertising. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. So Demetrius can get that Xbox money again on top of the ONE FC money. So, and if that's where Demetrius wants to go, good. And if UFC really wants Ben Askren, Ben Askren is one of the bigger fighters that the UFC has never signed. I would say along there, Ben Askren and Fedor are probably two of the bigger names that UFC has never signed. And now we're one step closer to achieving half that dream, with Ben Askren fighting within the UFC. Now, I don't know if they would throw him right into a super fight, because he was saying that he wanted to fight George St. Pierre. I don't know if they would throw him right in there. Maybe they would give him like a top 15 welterweight. Maybe top 10. But I would start within the top 15 range. 15 to 10. If I was responsible for booking. And test the waters. But, knowing UFC, they're probably going to try to strike while the iron is hot. So maybe they will throw Ben Askren in to a super fight with George St. Pierre. Maybe. I don't know. But I wouldn't bet against it. And I don't know if Ben Askren would stick around long enough to challenge for the welterweight title. Because if he did, then he would be the first fighter in history to win 3 major world titles in 3 different companies. Eddie Alvarez is hoping to achieve that goal. Because if he wins the lightweight championship against... Ooh, what is that person's name? I should have looked that up. I don't have it up on my screen right now. But I guess it really doesn't matter. If he wins the lightweight championship, which I think is now vacated, in ONE, then Eddie would make history. If Demetrius wins a championship in ONE, he makes history. If Ben Askren wins the title in UFC, he makes history. So we're looking at, world-class athletes being able to make history. And when I think about the trade, and let's just put some emphasis on the trade here. Sorry, I got sidetracked on Eddie Alvarez. Both fighters apparently have fights left on their contract. Ben Askren is semi-retired and has some fights left on his ONE contract, and Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson has fights left on his contract. So the idea is that basically that ONE will take over DJ's contract for the fights, and then UFC takes over Ben's contract for the fights. So it's with the understanding that if they release Ben, Ben goes to UFC, and once they release DJ, DJ goes to ONE. That is the understanding, and I have no reason to doubt that these two gentlemen won't honor the agreement. But let's talk about the promotions that they're currently in. I think that Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is... Don't get me wrong, I like ONE. I have their super app. I try to watch as much of their live fights as I can. and the occasional I will watch a fight that I have missed, or an event that I have missed. And obviously I follow UFC way more because I don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch a live fight, for the most part. Other than like the UFC Fight Pass China, which I watched the day after. But I guess the original point that I was trying to make before I get sidetracked too badly is I feel that this is going to be a step down in competition for Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. While this is going to be quite the jump up in competition for Ben. Maybe that's what Ben wants. Maybe Ben really wants to be tested. Because at this point, UFC holds about 80%, I would say, of the best world talent. Like, the UFC pretty much has, I would say, it's clear, the vast majority of the top 15 in any weight division that they have, from men's flyweight to heavyweight, from women's strawweight to women's featherweight. They have the top 15. Well, not so much UFC's featherweight. That title kind of means nothing at this point. It's just kind of there for Cyborg. And now potentially Amanda Nunes to, like, take that title too. Maybe. ONE really doesn't have... They have great talent. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I could walk inside of the cage and beat any one of ONE's champions, because they would mop the goddamn floor with me, as well as you. Let's not get this misconstrued, and don't pretend that you're a tough guy when these are true martial artists that would destroy you, right? So don't write bullshit on the internet. But they're not house names. If I walked up to you and asked you who was the lightweight champion of UFC, you would say, oh, that's Khabib Nurmagomedov. Sure, I killed that name, but whatever. And I would say, okay. Who's the lightweight champion of ONE? And unless you have your phone out and you Google it, you probably don't know the name. I know his nickname is like the Situation, or the Situation, but I don't remember his actual name. Because ONE is not incredibly huge here in North America. Not yet. And maybe with these big signings that will change. But they're not big names because they're not the best of the best. Probably the best of the best is signed by the UFC or Bellator. And that presents a problem because DJ has fought in the best of the best and barely lost by a razor-thin split decision to Henry Cejudo. So most likely, DJ is going to go in there and mop the floor and win their flyweight title. You can't say the same thing for Ben Askren. Ben Askren is a fantastic wrestler. Fantastic wrestler. But if he's going to make a run in the welterweight division, let's assume he's going to the welterweight division of the UFC, he's going to have to deal with some fucking murderers. Certified killers. If George St. Pierre is a welterweight fight, he's going to have to fight George St. Pierre. He's going to have to fight Colby Covington, former interim welterweight champion. He's going to have to go through Rafael dos Anjos. you know, who's a former lightweight champion and had a great run at welterweight. And if he goes for the championship, and if he fights the current champion now, you're going to have to fight Tyron Woodley. Tyron goddamn Woodley! Who, like him or hate him, is a bad motherfucker. He's a bad motherfucker. So, I think that for Demetrius Johnson, this is a good move for his legacy. This is probably a good move money-wise, and I hear his trainer, Matt Hume, is like vice president at ONE. So he's going to be looked after very well in ONE if this deal goes through. Very well. And he's probably going to make some serious money. I don't know how ONE makes their money because all their fights are free. At least for me here up in Canada. I can't speak for any other country. I hear it's not geo-blocked. So they must be having crazy TV deals over in Asia. And crazy investment. But I feel the DJ is probably going to be more appreciated over in ONE. So hopefully he'll make some damn good money. And I just feel that Ben Askren is going to be put through the fucking ringer. But his wrestling's really good. His wrestling is fantastic. From what I've seen, dude. His wrestling is amazing. But will that be enough against the creme de la creme, the top of the UFC's welterweight division? I don't know. But if this deal goes through, I am super interested to see where this goes. And I realize I've been ranting about this for 17 minutes, but I just wanted to express my thoughts. As you can tell, I love MMA I love MMA, in case that didn't come out right. And I hope that this signing, if it goes through, again, I hope that this will bring ONE FC much more, sorry about my hair, much more attention within the North American MMA media coverage. And just not some random YouTuber who plays video games that nobody watches attention. You know what I mean? And, like, I hope that ONE gets, like, at least here in Canada, I hope that because these big signings and all this hype around ONE, that they get, like, on the Fight Network. So that they just get more coverage. That's all I want. Because I think competition for the UFC is good. The bigger Bellator gets and the bigger ONE gets, the harder UFC is going to have to work to make every card count. And if that means cutting down cards to give us spectacular cards as a trade-off, then I'm A-okay with that. I love mixed martial arts. I do. And I just want the best. And that's my computer making weird noises. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. And if there's any update to this, I'll give you my reaction. Thanks for watching, everybody.